He has written some of the most recognizable theater works of our generation, from Kiss of the Spider-Woman to Ragtime to Love, Valor, Compassion and Master Class, just to name a few. But it's not always been smooth sailing. His play Corpus Christi resulted in boycotts and a death threat against him. Still, his voice has not been silenced. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with one of today's leading American playwrights, Tony Award winner Terrence McNally. At this point in your career, when you look back at other people's plays, like a Shakespeare, what do you still learn from them?
Or Shakespeare.
Yeah. Do you still pick up things, though? Are you still learning as a student?
Oh, Shakespeare you learn from. He's the only playwright I recommend to aspiring playwrights to read, because he creates characters through language. All of his characters speak differently. And I've been very lucky in my life, the teachers I've had. What I have noticed on my own, that Hamlet, you can know it's Hamlet just from his dialogue, which is very different from Othello's or Lear's. And I think the sign of a good playwright is someone who has a very keen ear, because we all use the language differently.
But if you know that already, what else do you glean from the work looking at it at this point?
Shakespeare, simplicity. Keep yourself out. Like my favorite line in Shakespeare this year is when Cordelia dies, and he says, never, 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 5 times. It's the most eloquent thing I've ever heard. And sometimes just less is more. Less is better. You also learn from Shakespeare that people are really interesting, and you don't have to judge them. Let the story, let their actions reveal whether they're good or bad. Don't write your opinion of characters. Shakespeare is not to be found in his plays, I don't think. Yeah. Someone said, write a book on the philosophy of William Shakespeare. I'd say, 1, don't kill the king, and 2, that's about it. Don't upset the political order. But where's his philosophy? Is it Iago or is it Othello? Is it? So that's me. For me, what a writer should do, observe the people. Don't judge them. Don't save your opinions for the editorial. Always can write a good letter to the editor. And I try to keep myself out of my plays. In my early work, I think I'm very opinionated, and it's clear this is written by an angry young man who's against the war, who's against racism, who's for this, for that. And I just don't think that's a good way to go about being an artist. And I've learned that from Shakespeare, too.
So should there be a message then in a play?
No, I don't think there should be.
Really?
No, I think people should carry away feelings. But, to write a play that says war is bad, I don't want to go see that. I know war is bad. And people who don't agree with me aren't going to go see the play anyway. So I don't believe in preaching to the choir, as the saying goes. I think that if you can change people's hearts, maybe then you can change their minds. I don't think people go to the theater to be lectured. Shakespeare did not lecture people. None of the great plays are essays. They are portraits of people in crisis, in behaving, relating to one another, which makes theater a very unique art form. You get to see King Lear talking to his 3 daughters and how he relates to each of them. A novelist, I think fiction is a 2-dimensional art form, and theater is 3-dimensional. We're also interpretive, so we're collaborative. I feel no kinship with a novelist, let me put it that way. I think our work is so different, so different. A novelist pretty much works with his editor, and that's it. I work with designers, directors, actors. Everything goes into creating a play, especially when the play is brand new, the world premiere performance.
So it's not you in a room, you write this thing, and then you hand over the manuscript.
It's me in a room at first, but that's only, I'm not good at percentages, but say, might only be 50% of playwriting is being alone in the room writing the play, and the other 50% is the choices you make. Who's going to be in the rehearsal room with you? Which director, which actors, how you behave in the rehearsal room. I don't believe anyone knows what a new play is about until opening night. You all find the play together. Actors, director,
Okay, then let me stop you there and
Yeah.
take you back a little bit to what you were saying right when we started, though. Is this then a story? What are you, as a playwright, what
Tell
are
a
you
story.
writing? Just telling a story?
Telling a story, introducing the audience to people they never met before.
So what's the
Holding
idea
it.
to you then? Is it a character that comes to your mind? Where does it all start then? If it's not a message of some sort that you
Yeah.
want to show, where do the ideas come from?
From people in a situation. I write intuitively. I don't think a lot about these things, honestly. I have opinions about them for other writers when I read their work, but on my own, I don't like to think too much about how I write. I think I have a technique, but that's different than, I think you're talking about inspiration. Where does it come from? I don't know where it comes from, and I don't care. I think if you know you're going to be a playwright and your life's mission is to write these interesting people in an interesting situation, I think you start storing them up inside, and then one day you say, I'm going to write that play today. I've never met anyone say, he'd be a good character. Boy, I'm going to write a play about her. Happens differently. But I'm sort of on cruise control even right now because I'm a playwright, and eventually this will all be stuff that will probably be used or can be used in playwriting. But I don't go around stealing ideas from people or stealing characters. I've never put a friend of mine in a play. My mother used to think she was in all my plays, and I'd say, Mom, I'm sorry, how can you do that to me? I said, no one will ever confuse you with Maria Callas, I promise you. That's not you. But none of my friends have ever said, how could you, put all my family secrets on a play? I have no need to, nor have I cannibalized my own life. My writing is emotionally incredibly autobiographical, but it's never factually.
Right. Can any of the characters
Yeah.
from any of your plays exist in any of the other plays? Or do they have to just live in the world they were created?
I think they pretty much live in the world. I can't imagine the two women from Perfect Ganesh wandering onto the deck of the beach house of the characters in Lips Together, Teeth Apart, for example. I think plays are a little self-contained, which is going back to Shakespeare. He created a world through his language and imagery that is uniquely the world of Othello and Cyprus, or the world of Hamlet and Elsinore. And I think I try to do that, create a special little world. I don't think my writing is naturalistic. I hope it's realistic. These are credible people, and this is how they would speak, how they would feel, but not naturalistic. I mean, some people thought Frankie and Johnny was a naturalistic play because they actually made a Western omelet in it, but that's not naturalism. That's putting the kitchen stove into a very poetic play, I think, or certainly not a... there's a school of art called painterly realism. It looks like a picture of a 40-year-old woman, but it's clearly been painted by someone. And that's, I would say, I'm playwriting realism, because the theater to me is artificial.
Yeah.
In a wonderful sense. It allows us to really see life in a heightened reality. So naturalism, I think, is exactly the world I just left outside, and I come into the theater, I want to be in a different world. That's my personal aesthetic. There are other playwrights who very much strive for a more naturalistic approach to acting, too. I think the actors who have been most successful in my plays have been almost, I use the word in the best sense, performers. They know they are enacting these characters for you. They're very aware of an audience out there. Whereas there are some very intense method actors tend to lose themselves in the reality of the situation, and the audience is like their enemy.
Right.
You're not really watching me do this.
An actor gets one of your plays. Should they go and research beyond that, or should everything they need to do the play be right there in the work?
I hope it's right there in the work. I think the acting process is mysterious, too. I mean, I don't know how a good actor does it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they learn the lines, frankly. I don't know how they keep from shaking. I would be terrified. I don't know how they make it sound spontaneous and as if it's never been said before. So, and I've spent many years in rehearsal rooms, and I still don't understand what the really great actors do. And the really good actors that I've worked with who are successful in my plays, we never discuss their meaning. They just get it.
Really?
I think you find the people who hear not only your rhythms as a writer, but share your sensibility of your worldview and why you're writing this play and about these particular characters in this situation. They get that and they just hear you.
So do you think that's why there are some actors that are great interpreters of a certain body of work? Because they're
terrible in others. Actors who, God, she'd be great in a Tennessee Williams play. I don't want to see her do Shakespeare. And I think absolutely. And really successful theater is that combination of script and actor and director. A director has a lot to do with, especially a brand new play. I go back to the world premiere of a play. We all know what Hamlet is now, or Three Sisters, or Death of a Salesman. So if we do it, they'll say not a very good production of Death of a Salesman, not Arthur Miller's a bad playwright.
Right.
And so that's why the choice of and the director puts his imprint on a first production of a play.
Yeah.
The words are incredibly important, and I think it's fruitless to say what's more important, the director, the playwright, the actor. They're all equally important. I think for a new play, the design is incredibly important. I think people are very sophisticated visually in this day and age. And if the set is wrong for a play, that's what they're going to look at for the next 2.5 hours.
Right.
That can inform the audience's response to the material. So I cannot emphasize enough to you how importantly I feel collaboration is. And having a successful career in the theater is part of it is being smart about who you choose to collaborate with. And I think one reason maybe Hollywood gets into a lot of trouble is they put together sort of package deals, you know. He won an Oscar, she won an Oscar, the writer won an Oscar, the director. How can it fail? And they sign them all up, and these people have nothing in common, and they don't necessarily make a good movie together.
Have your Hollywood experiences been good?
Good, not terrific, or I didn't feel a part of them because I've had 3 plays I think made into Hollywood films. They were not the original. I did not think this will make a great movie. They were plays, and we did. I think the movie of Love, Valor turned out pretty well. I think The Ritz turned out very poorly. Yeah. But people still like it, and I'm grateful they like it. But I remember the play very, very vividly. And I think Frankie and Johnny falls in the middle because the movie of Frankie and Johnny is a real adaptation of a play that was written to take place in 3 hours of real time, and suddenly it's a story told over a month's period. So
right.
I call it Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Lune Part 2, or, it's not the same thing. Though I think it's not a bad movie, and I think Michelle Pfeiffer is extraordinary in it. And I don't care, she's beautiful. Thought she captured the pain in Frankie superbly, and Al Pacino ain't shabby either. So, but I've not had a bad experience with film either, where, oh my God, they've totally destroyed it. I know Doctorow famously was very dismissive of the film of Ragtime, and I don't feel that way about my 3. And so when I took on the job of making a musical out of Ragtime, I did a treatment of it, a 20-page treatment that was sent to him for his approval, because I did not want him telling the New York Times he hated the musical we'd made from his piece. But after he approved the outline, I said, but then he has no further, he can come to a performance and tell me what he thinks, but he's not my co-writer.
Do you enjoy more, I should say, writing from something, adapting, or do you like the creative process of inventing? Or do you even see them as different? Because in a sense you are recreating.
I see them as wildly different.
Okay.
The difference is Ragtime, you know how it's going to end, or Full Monty, or whatever, Spider-Woman. So that's craftsmanship. I think you can be very creative. I do not consider writing an adaptation playwriting light. It's a lot of work, but it's different. I'm at the service of Doctorow when I did Ragtime. I wanted to write a musical that honored this great, great American novel. I don't think of it as an original piece of work by Terrance McNally.
Do you feel your hands tied, though?
No. I had great fun doing it.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I wouldn't, it's a different, the result is different than a play of mine that is completely came out of my head alone.
In the world of opera, when you write a libretto, do you approach that differently?
Well, I haven't written that many.
Yeah.
One. I always feel The word creative? Yeah, I feel creative. I don't feel I'm doing a job, you know. You got to do this. Oh.
Do you ever feel any of this as a job?
No. No. Sometimes some of the things you have to do being part of the theater is a job. Sometimes interviews, what does the play mean? And I'm glad you haven't asked me the questions like that. The worst part of being a playwright was before the computer, and you know, you could just delete pages, move page 11, make it page 3. I did so much retyping, and before they had Xerox machines, stencils, and carbon papers. That's made writing so much easier.
Okay, dumb
Most
question
writers
then.
spent their life doing carbon copies.
Dumb question then. Are there changes you would have made in plays if it wasn't for all of the work that now, if you had had today's technology, would have been different?
Probably not, no.
Really?
No, don't think so. But it has made it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much more willing to rewrite than I used to be, but maybe that's part of getting older and wiser, too, that sometimes you don't get it right first draft or two, but when we go into rehearsal with a play, I always think it's as good as it can possibly be, and then by the end of the first read-through, I see things that aren't quite as smart as I thought they were, and I rewrite them. But every play changes. I'd say I've had plays I've written as little as 5% since we were in rehearsal, and I've had plays where I've rewritten maybe 25, 30, I don't know, big changes.
Is that hard for you?
No. I just see it just isn't working. You know that expression, the buck stops here, and it's called a play, so who does the buck stop with? The playwright, not the actor. I wish I could blame it all on the actors or the director.
Is there a point where the characters become real people to you? And if so, then how do you change things?
Real people that I created, so I'm God when it comes to my plays. I mean, I think only someone with a very large ego would ever consider being a playwright, which I don't think I have in quote, real life, but here I am presuming to create little worlds and telling people you go here and there. Now these kind of Pirandello exercise plays in which the character rebels against the writer, I have so little time for them. I think they're absolutely ridiculous. You know, Edward Albee did an adaptation of Breakfast at Tiffany's as a musical, and Holly Golightly got in a big fight with the author, and he said, I created you and I can destroy you. And he took a piece of manuscript and crumpled it in his hand, and the actress crumpled to the floor. And I thought that was it's about the silliest thing Edward Albee's ever written. And characters do not do that to me. My characters, no. But you have to allow them their breathing room. That's why when you asked me earlier, do I believe in message plays? No, because then you're like on a track. I got to go this way, you know. That's why I think political correctness is something to be avoided by any playwright or artist. You can be as politically correct as you want in dinner table conversation and all that, but when it comes to creating real life, people are not always politically correct. And there was a period when I think people got so involved with writing a proper viewpoint of people, and I hope I didn't fall into that. And I've gotten some flack for it too, but we're all still here living to talk about it. So
when you talk about this, I think of Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
And you got so much flack for that play, and people were so riled up about it. Was there ever a point you wished you hadn't done it? Does that ever happen?
No, not at all. I was frankly very surprised at the hullabaloo about the play, but that was something created pretty much by the press. So the play itself is not that incendiary, I don't think. I certainly, when I wrote it, did not think, oh, this could get me into trouble. And that'd be the worst kind of censorship that can happen to any artist. And when you start doubting yourself, oh, they won't like that. And, I was very much of two minds over the NEA controversy. I wish there were much more government funding for the theater. There's virtually none anymore. But when theaters start choosing the plays they're going to do, not to get into trouble with the NEA or an organization, the writers start, I better not write that play. And there was a period after Corpus Christi, I thought, I hope I don't start censoring myself because of this experience. And that's dangerous. And a lot of our not-for-profit theaters now very much exist on their subscriber base. And they get nervous about anything, too, that might upset the subscribers, because God bless subscribers, we wouldn't have theater in this country without them, but they tend to be somewhat older and more conservative than the person who says, I don't know if I want to see that play or not. I'll wait until I hear about it.
How did you avoid the trap of falling into the self-censorship then? After the Corpus Christi, you just said, I hoped I wouldn't. How did you make sure you didn't?
I don't know.
Because I would think human nature would say it'd be very easy to be cautious.
I just don't think I have, because I don't know. I don't know how I avoided it. It doesn't, after something like Corpus Christi, you say, what else can I lose? Or it can't be reviled any more than it. I've got death threats against me. It's pretty good. No, I was smart, and I have good friends. I have a very rich personal life. My career is not my life. It's part of it, a wonderful part of it, but I have really good friends who keep my feet on the ground, who keep me brave, and I have people who support me really wonderfully, which is important. I have a wonderful partner. We're married. We went to Vermont and got civilly united, and you don't do these things by yourself. I'm not that brave or strong a person, but if you have a strong partner at your side, it makes a big difference, and other artists who believe in your work, that helps enormously. Sure, it hurts when you get bad reviews from the New York Times. It hurts more because you feel you've let people down. It affects your pocketbook for the year to come. But you can't let it affect how you feel about yourself as a writer. Okay. And you start writing to please people. I learned pretty early. Frankie Johnny was a good example. My first really successful play, I'd say, in the sense I got done in a lot of countries and made into a movie. When I wrote it, I said, the only people who like this play will be over 40, very lonely. It will not interest anybody else. And it went on to be very successful. Then Master Class, I thought this play might not even get done, a play about Maria Callas teaching 3 singers to sing rather unusual arias from Bellini and early Verdi opera. And that's probably the most performed play of all of mine. So that whole thing, write what you care about, and don't. When I teach playwriting, I keep saying to them, don't write another Sam Shepard play. Don't write another David Mamet play. We have David Mamet. He's alive and well. So don't do that. And I think the main thing I can do as a teacher is encourage young people to write like themselves, because each of us have our own very unique voice. And I think a good teacher helps his student to find their voice, not sing in my voice, which is a trap that I fall. I don't consider myself a good teacher, because then I end up telling people, well, this is how I would have written the scene. I'm absolutely not taking
So
my
how do you
own
tell
advice.
someone to find their own voice? What is the secret?
Well, one, I said, get out of my class, because I'm just going to get you to write like me. Be authentic, be honest, I also believe in write what you know about and care about. When I have students and they'll say, I can't begin my play yet because there's so much research I have to do about Abe Lincoln when he was 24 years old. And I say, you live in America in tumultuous, incredible times. Why do you want to even write a play about Abraham Lincoln when he was 24 years old? And you have to go to the library. Open your window, go out your door. There's so much to write about. I don't understand researching to write. I mean, that's anathema. And so if I have 100 students, I have, do my arithmetic right, 49 writing the Abe Lincoln play, and I have another 49 writing the David Mamet, Eugene O'Neill play. And then there's 2 students who I think maybe you can really get them in touch with their own feelings and go to the theater. A lot of people say they want to be playwrights, and they don't really know the theater. And I must say, before I ever thought I'd be a playwright, I like going to the theater. I like history. I love the fact that the Greeks are doing the same thing I'm doing, 2,300 years ago, and those theaters still exist, and it's meaningful to me. And I want to know what Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov and Shaw and Williams. I'm appalled when I have students in their early 20s, and I say, Let's talk about Tennessee Williams, and it turns out they've seen the movie of Streetcar Named Desire, maybe, and that's it. Like, the man wrote 40 plays. And if you're going to be a playwright, you should know all 40 of them, and you should know 5 of them really well.
Yeah.
But seeing the movie of Streetcar doesn't count with me. And if you don't know your Chekhov and Ibsen, why, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to go somewhere, and you don't have to reinvent. There are things to be learned from other plays about technique, how to end an act, create some tension and suspense.
Yeah.
So I think go to the theater, you learn more than you do listening to somebody like me.
And I'm going to say then we'll stop letting them listen to you and go to the theater. Terrance McNally, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Terrance McNally.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of Interviews, please visit HoustonPBS.org.